Peace be upon you all once more. Coming back for the second episode, what some of cloud computing advantages. So let's have a look about what can we have from cloud computing. First of all is the high availability, which means that your application will be almost like they call it the 5 nines, 99%, 0.9999, something like this, which means that your application is going to be available to all the users most of the time with no downtime, even if something going wrong. But how that happened already? By using single points of failure, that to avoid such kind of single point of failure of the component, and they handle it, the cloud computing, and reliable crossover, which means that if there is two computings you need to switch between them, that could be switched reliably without losing any of the data or affecting your performance. Second, failure detectability, which means that there is some mechanism you use to avoid common failure issues and how you can handle that issue in the future. So that's high availability, which is provided by the cloud computing. Second one, it will be the scalability, the ability to add resources horizontally or vertically, like CPUs, RAM, virtual machine for the vertically, or adding a virtual machine to configuration as horizontally, which make your application more scalable, depends on the load of that application. Then we have the elasticity or auto scaling. The auto scaling is by configuring in cloud applications that takes the advantage of auto scaling, which means that if you have like a network load, a lot of people are using your application at the moment, by auto scaling you are going to consume more resources, so you will ask for that resources automatically, you are going to use them in that time. After that network loading going less, you are going to release that resourcing using the auto scaling. That's about elasticity of your application. So you use resources, depends on the overload using the auto scaling advantage. We have after that agility, which means that if you have some functionality, you plan it, build it, and you release it. That will be much easier using the cloud computing by using some resources. Configuration depends on the cloud provider which you are using. That will take us to the geo-distribution. If you have a geographically application, for example, you want your application to be accessed from a several and a different geolocation all over the world, you can just deploy your application to that geolocation data center. You choose where you would like to deploy your application close to your users. By this way, your customers, they will have always a good performance in the regions where they are existed. For example, you have some people in Europe, you will deploy your application in Europe. You have in Russia, deploy in Russia. You have in Asia, Japan, you will deploy there. In America and Africa, you choose where to deploy your application. Depends on the nationality of your customers. So that's also advantage of the cloud computing, geo-distribution. That will take us later for the disaster recovery. Disaster recovery if something goes wrong. So the cloud computing going to help you with that services, like if data replication to replicate the data in some places, if geo-distribution for data safe in event of disaster. And disaster could be different. Maybe it could be a geo-disaster or a just local disaster or a data failure disaster. It depends on that kind of disaster. That's why the disaster recovery is a general concept, but you are going to check with your cloud service provider how they act to that disaster and what they are going to do in case of any disaster. That will take us to the consumption-based model, money talking, as you know. So money is very important to know that pay as you go. You use resource, you pay for the resource. You want additional resource, you pay for the additional resource you need it. You don't need any resource, you stop paying, you return the resource. It's very simple enough. You need, pay, you don't need, just release. That's the consumption-based model as an advantage on cloud computing. So that will take us to the third episode. We are going to meet there to continue a discussion about what kind of cloud services we are going to be provided with. So please, if you like the quick presentation of the cloud computing, share it, like it, leave a comment, ask anything. I will be more than happy to answer, and see you in the third episode. So peace be upon you all.